Economist Rubino predicts a credit crash. He says the world will soon be hurt by a bursting Ponzi scheme economy. The term Ponzi scheme refers to any financial fraud based on a pyramid of investors. Shrinking the money supply risks triggering a massive, uncontrollable crash. And as Rubino says, you're probably hearing the term Ponzi scheme for the first time. The term Ponzi scheme refers to any financial fraud based on a pyramid of investors. A pyramid scheme is an illegal investment scheme that involves paying returns to investors from money paid by later investors rather than from net profits collected from actual sales. Specifically, shell companies act as a front for the scammer who runs the scam using the funds of new investors to fill the gaps left behind the embezzlement of money from older investors. The goal of which ritual business or person is to convince some people to invest in something, possibly an unspecified product, with a promise of a guaranteed return. In these cases, the incentive to invest is high interest rates, and by extension, the repayment of investors creates barriers to investment security for potential investors who flock to invest. As it becomes clear the feedback of the pyramid scheme, the system, requires more and more investors, which proves in the future the short-livedness of this process and the whole plan. It can theoretically continue indefinitely, or even as long as new capital flows in. The type of this fraud honorarily took the name of the first teacher, the Italian Charles Ponzi. Of course, the first reference to a similar scheme was made by Charles Dickens in 1857 in his novel called Little Dorrit. A Ponzi scheme dies when the influx of new money is insufficient to pay the victims of existing investors. To understand why this matters today, let's do a thought experiment, Rubino urges. Let's say next year the U.S. has to pay 5% more for Medicare and Social Security and 7% more for its global military empire. Meanwhile, businesses with delinquent debt must carry it with higher interest rates, while homeowners with adjustable rate mortgages see their monthly payments rise. All told, that's a lot of new dollars, say $500 billion, that did not exist a year ago but are needed now. And they have to come from somewhere. In a normal fiat monetary system, the central bank simply creates the necessary currency out of thin air, everyone gets paid, and the resulting decline in the value of the currency is so small that few are bothered. But this is not the case today. As liabilities increase, the amount of money available shrinks. The chart shows the growth rate of the M2, the money supply, showing a huge spike. COVID, partly responsible for last year's spike in consumer prices, and a dramatic plunge this year, M2 including M1, and every element of wealth that can guarantee to be converted relatively immediately into cash without losing its value. Indicatively, the M2 index includes short-term term deposits in banks, saving accounts, saving bank deposits, and 24-hour money market mutual funds. The analysis and monitoring of the M2 index is of particular interest as combined with currencies. It includes all liquid deposits in an economy. Note that during the entire era of fiat currencies, M2 has never declined in the past. This means that some debts will not be paid. Those who have borrowed and are in trouble will default on their debts and so on until all sectors start to blow up. Think again of regional bank SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, as a relatively favorable example of what comes next. In a summary, the current global financial system is a Ponzi scheme, and the new money printing machine has been disabled. The worst is yet to come, and gets even more interesting. During the pandemic, central banks discovered how easy it is to flood an economy with cash. The US, for example, simply mailed checks to citizens and gave loans to small businesses while throwing trillions into loan guarantees and direct aid to large corporations. So that was easy. When today's Ponzi scheme begins to unravel, these same governments will be faced with a choice between letting almost everything stop, as the problem in the collapsing periphery begins to head towards the core, hence, as small players die in ways that threaten, for example, JP Morgan Chase. And now, instead of sending paper or electronic checks to individual bank accounts, the Fed will develop its much-discussed digital currency and fund free, quote-unquote, free account balances for everyone it deems worthy of such a gift. The vast majority, traumatized by the disappearance of their jobs and stock portfolios, will gladly accept the free money. And just like that, the next financial system is born, which as always takes us to gold and silver. History says that the first phase of this process will involve a bear market in stocks, and in the second phase, hence introduction of the CBDC, digital currency, people who prefer not to own programmable currency monitored 24/7 by the NSA will convert Fed money into real assets. There will be shortages of gold and silver, and prices will respond accordingly. This is from Banking News, and I've translated this for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.